My name is Jake, and I grew up in London. London is a big, busy city with many people, tall buildings, and streets filled with life. For years, I thought London was the only place I would ever want to live. But things changed. After a few years, I realized that maybe, just maybe, London was no longer the place for me. I was born and raised in a small neighborhood in North London. I loved the energy of the city. I loved how there was always something happening, no matter the time of day. The lights, the sounds, and the people, it felt exciting. After I finished school, I got my first job at a tech company right in the heart of London. I felt lucky. It was close to my friends, close to the best restaurants, and close to everything I enjoyed. For a while, life was great. I worked hard, went out with friends, and explored the city's hidden corners. I went to concerts, tried new foods, and even visited art galleries on weekends. Every street had a story, every building had history. London was my home, and I couldn't imagine leaving, but over time, things started to change. First, I noticed how crowded it felt everywhere I went. In the morning, I took the tube, or the underground train, to work. The tube was always packed. Sometimes, I couldn't even find a seat and had to stand for the entire ride. People were squeezed together like sardines in a can, and the air was stuffy. It was tiring to start each day like that. Then there was the noise. I lived near a busy road, and the sounds of cars, buses, and people were constant. Day and night, it felt like there was never any silence. Even in my apartment, I could hear people talking outside or cars honking their horns. I started to feel like I couldn't escape the noise, no matter where I went. One of the biggest things I noticed was how expensive everything was. Rent was high, and I was paying a lot just to live in a small apartment. Groceries, going out, transportation, everything seemed to cost more each year. I wanted to save money to travel and maybe buy a home one day, but living in London made that very difficult. My friends felt the same way, and we often talked about how expensive life in the city was. Then, the pandemic hit. Suddenly, the world changed. Many people, including me, had to start working from home. At first, I thought it would be temporary, but as the weeks went by, I began to realize that working remotely might become the new normal. I no longer needed to go into the office every day. Which made me think, did I really need to stay in London? One day, as I looked out my window at the crowded street below, I started to feel something new, a sense of longing. I missed nature. I missed open spaces. I thought back to when I was a kid, and my family would take trips to the countryside. I remembered the smell of fresh grass, the sound of birds singing, and the calm feeling of being away from the city. It was peaceful, something I hadn't felt in a long time. The idea of leaving London began to grow in my mind. I started thinking about places with more space, places where I could have a quiet morning without the noise of cars and people. I thought about small towns with parks, rivers, and green fields. The idea was exciting, but also a bit scary. Leaving London felt like leaving a part of myself behind. I started talking to my friends and family about it. Some of them understood and even felt the same way. Others thought I was crazy. "Why would you leave London?" they asked. "This is the best place in the world." But I knew I had to make a change. So, I made a decision. I would leave London and move to a smaller town outside the city. It wasn't too far away, only about an hour's train ride, but it was different. There were more open spaces, less noise, and the rent was cheaper. I could afford a bigger apartment, with a view of trees instead of traffic. Moving was hard at first. I missed the city, my favorite places, and my friends. I missed the energy, the lights, and the feeling that something exciting could happen at any moment. But slowly, I began to adjust. I started to enjoy the quiet mornings and the sound of birds instead of car horns. I found a little cafe where I could work and a park where I could go for walks. I realized I had more time to relax, more space to think, and more money to save. I could still visit London whenever I wanted. The train ride was short, and I could be back in the city for a day of fun. But now, I had the best of both worlds, the excitement of London when I wanted it and the peace of my new home. Looking back, I know I made the right choice. London will always be a part of who I am. I'll always have memories of the city, the friends, the places, the adventures. But for now, I am happy with my choice to leave. I've found a new home where I can be at peace, and I've learned that sometimes it's okay to let go of one chapter of life to start another. So, that's why I left London. It was a choice for peace, for space, and for a new kind of happiness. And I wouldn't change a thing. The end. Thank you for listening to my story. If you enjoyed it, don't forget to like, share, and comment with your thoughts. Subscribe and hit the bell icon to hear more stories and updates. Happy listening!